Hello and welcome to RetroQuest. I'm Jay, and today we're playing Double Dragon, which was released in 1988 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, or the NES if you want to aggravate the internet. I was only 5 years old when this released, but I distinctly remember having this back in the day on what was my first proper games console. So let's head on over to my comfy chair and boot it up. Double Dragon for the NES was developed by Technos Japan and released in 1988, following the success of its 1987 arcade predecessor. The development of the game was led by Yoshihisa Kishimoto and had previously created Neketsu Koho Kunio-kun, localized in the West as Renegade. Kishimoto drew significant inspiration from his own high school experiences and popular media such as Bruce Lee's film Enter the Dragon and the Mad Max movies, which influenced the game's setting and martial arts theme. Initially, Double Dragon was envisaged as a direct sequel to Neketsu Koho Kunio-kun, but Technos Japan's staff suggested creating a game with broader international appeal. This led Kishimoto to develop Double Dragon as a spiritual successor with a new cast and setting, focusing on disaster-ridden city rather than a high school. The game's title reflects its two-player cooperative gameplay, a major draw for arcade players at the time. The development process involved significant innovation, particularly in creating a continuous side-scrolling world that gave players a sense of progression. Unlike its predecessor, which has segmented stages, Double Dragon featured seamless transitions between different areas, adding a cinematic feel to the gameplay. The inclusion of cutscenes further enhanced this aspect, making the game stand out in the beat-em-up genre. One interesting nuance of the development was the technical limitations faced during the NES port. The original arcade version used advanced hardware that supported multiple processors and a wide colour palette, which had to be significantly scaled down for the NES. Despite these limitations, the NES version managed to capture the essence of the arcade game, although some features, like cooperative gameplay, were altered due to hardware constraints. Unlike the arcade version, the NES version of Double Dragon lacks a cooperative two-player mode in the main game, which was a significant feature in the original arcade release. Instead, the NES version includes a turn-based two-player mode and a competitive mode B where two players can fight against each other. Double Dragon for the NES centres around the story of twin brothers Billy and Jimmy Lee, who are martial artists skilled in the fictional Susetsu-kun fighting style. The game's plot kicks off when Billy's girlfriend Marion is kidnapped by the Black Warriors, a ruthless street gang led by the antagonist Big Boss Willie. The brothers must battle through various stages to rescue Marion, facing off against numerous gang members along the way. The game is set in a dystopian, post-apocalyptic New York City, which was devastated by a nuclear war, leading to the societal collapse and chaos. This setting is reflected in the game's environment, with dilapidated buildings and urban decay reminiscent of the Mad Max films and the Fist of the North Star anime and manga series. One of the most memorable twists in the game occurs at the end. Sorry, spoiler warning. If two players manage to reach the final boss together, they must fight each other to determine who will win Marion's affection, highlighting the competitive element between the brothers. Double Dragon for the NES is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up game. Players control their character from a third-person perspective, navigating through urban environments while fighting waves of enemies. The game consists of 4 stages, each with its own unique setting, including city streets, construction sites, forests, and the gang's hideout. Compared to modern controllers, the NES was limited with just a D-pad, A and a B button, and a start and select button. So the options available in this game mirror that simplicity. You move your character with the D-pad, punch with A, and kick with B. And if you press both together, you can perform a jump kick. The control scheme is straightforward, but it allows for a variety of combat moves by combining directional inputs with button presses. Players can execute punches, kicks, and special moves like jump kicks and elbow strikes. Additionally, they can pick up and use weapons dropped by enemies, such as baseball bats, whips, and knives. As players defeat enemies, they gain experience points which contribute to levelling up their character. Each level unlocks new moves such as uppercuts, roundhouse kicks, air grabs, and knee attacks. Double Dragon received positive critical and commercial reception upon its release. It was praised for its engaging gameplay, cooperative mode, and innovative mechanics. The game was a top seller, quickly selling out in stores like Toys R Us and moving 100,000 copies within its first month in the United States. Critically, it was lauded by various gaming publications. For example, Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded it the 1988 Game of the Year. The game was recognised for its influence on the beat-em-up genre, establishing conventions that many later games adopted. IGN, in a retrospective review, gave the game a score of 7.5, noting its importance in the genre's history and the nostalgic value it holds for players. The game continues to be celebrated as a classic, having been re-released on various platforms, including the Wii's Virtual Console and the Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console. The success of Double Dragon led to a series of sequels and spin-offs, as well as various media adaptations and re-releases. First, there was Double Dragon 2 The Revenge in 1989, following Billy and Jimmy as they seek vengeance for Marion's death. It introduced new moves and a more intricate storyline. Then there was Double Dragon 3 The Sacred Stones in 1990, which saw the brothers embark on a global quest to find the Sacred Stones, featuring improved graphics and new characters. Super Double Dragon in 1992, released for the SNES, it emphasised cooperative gameplay with enhanced graphics and more complex combat mechanics. Then there's a bit of a gap until Double Dragon 4 in 2017, a direct sequel to the original trilogy. It maintained the classic 8-bit style while introducing new stages and moves. In terms of spin-offs and related titles, there was Battletoads and Double Dragon in 1993, a crossover that combined characters from both franchises. Double Dragon 5 The Shadow Falls in 1994, a fighting game which was inspired by the animated series. Speaking of which, in terms of media adaptations, the animated series released in 1993. It was a TV show that expanded on the game's storyline, running for 2 seasons. In 1994, a live-action film, loosely based on the game, was released. And then there's been various re-releases and ports over the years. The original Double Dragon has been ported to various platforms, including the Sega Master System, Atari 2600 and 7800, the Commodore 64, the Amiga, the Game Boy, Genesis Mega Drive, and Atari Lynx.
Are you done now? Huh?
Modern re-releases include versions for the Wii's Virtual Console, Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console, and iOS devices. Double Dragon Advance in 2003, which was a remake for the Game Boy Advance, included enhanced graphics and additional content. The franchise's enduring popularity has led to its continued presence in the gaming community, with various merchandise and anniversary collections keeping the legacy alive. Double Dragon for the NES is a landmark in video game history, cementing its place as a quintessential beat-em-up game. It set new standards with its cooperative gameplay, engaging combat mechanics, and cinematic feel. The game's success spawned numerous sequels, spin-offs, and media adaptations, including the animated series and a live-action film. Its influence can be seen in countless games that followed, establishing conventions that shaped the genre. Today, Double Dragon remains a beloved classic, celebrated for its innovation and lasting impact on the gaming industry. So there you go. I had a great time playing this and revisiting it. It was actually a lot shorter and simpler than I thought it was going to be, but very challenging, especially towards the later levels. If you enjoyed this and want to see more of it, then please like and subscribe and get involved in the comments down below. If there's a game you'd like to see me cover on RetroQuest, then again, let me know in the comments. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.